Hi, everyone. Welcome to Liberty Chats. My name is Lindsay Martin, and I am a member of the Steamboat Institute's Emerging Leaders Council. The Institute is a conservative organization based out of Steamboat Springs, Colorado, and we are dedicated to promoting the values of freedom, liberty, and civil dialogue. I am so excited for our guest on today's episode. Christine Yeargin is a mother, speaker, and an advocate. She is also the founder of Be There Village, an organization that supports and empowers women through pregnancy into motherhood. Christine is from Colorado, but she has a steady following on social media, and her influence has really grown over the past few years. So, Christine, thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Thank you. So, could you just please first start sharing about your personal story and journey?
Sure. So, how far back do you want me to go?
I guess, true. That like is a very broad question. So I guess far back as you want to share in like terms of how that has gotten you to this point now.
Right. So, I am a lot of things, mother first, but also pro-life advocate. And that is one of the biggest things that I do and I talk about on social media is the pro-life movement. And kind of what led me to that is I grew up as a Christian. My family was pro-life. We never really talked about abortion or the pro-life movement or really kind of a lot of in-depth things that were more serious. I just kind of knew that they were wrong, but we didn't really have a conversation about it. And then when I was in college, I was kind of not walking with the Lord. You know, I knew Jesus, but I wasn't walking with him. And I found myself in an unplanned pregnancy. And when I found out that I was pregnant, I was really forced to kind of walk out those pro-life beliefs. And anybody who hasn't been in those shoes, you can say that you're pro-life and many people are, but when you're in those shoes, it becomes a much bigger deal to actually walk out your beliefs. You're really tested to say, do I really believe this? Am I really going to do this? I'm 20 years old. I'm single. I don't know how I'm going to support this baby, what my life's going to turn out like. You know, the easier option, very obviously, is abortion. However, that is not the right option. So you're forced to kind of walk out those beliefs. And I ended up taking Plan B. I didn't really know what Plan B was. I didn't think it was an abortion, but I didn't know what it was. And I started feeling uneasy. And at the time it was 2 pills. I'm not sure what it is now, but it was 2 pills. I threw one of them out of the window after I took the first one. I was like, I don't feel comfortable. I don't know what I just did. If I am pregnant, did I just cause the baby to have a deformity? All of these things were running through my head, but then I just kind of forgot about it and thought that I wasn't pregnant, and turns out that I was. And my son's father was not supportive and said that a baby was not an option. He said that he wanted me to have an abortion. And I said no. And then we didn't talk for quite some time. And then about 3 months later, he offered me $50,000 to have an abortion. My response was not so kind. It was, and not so nice words. It was, you can take that money and shove it up your, you know what. And I chose to have my son, and I have a 14-year-old, well, actually he's 14 next month, son named Noah, because of it. And I really, when I do share this story, because it was something that was very emotional, very serious. His father and I were young and dumb. I like to bring it full circle and share that his dad is 100% in his life now, regrets having asked for the abortion, and loves Noah with all of his heart. So those circumstances that we were scared of back then, and that I was especially scared of, not knowing how things would turn out, God has really taken my story and turned it for good. And I've always felt called to the pro-life movement, and I really, really dragged my feet, honestly. If you know conservative politics or the conservative movement as a whole, or being a Christian, all of these things can be controversial. But the pro-life movement and the topic of abortion is like the most controversial. Like it brings out the emotions and pretty much anybody involved. You can debate taxes all day, whatever, no big deal. You bring up abortion and people are throwing things at each other and fights break out or whatever. It's a very emotional topic. So I kind of dragged my feet a lot. I didn't really want to just jump in. I didn't know how to jump in. I didn't know how my friends would take it, but I decided one day, I kind of was a mom blogger on social media and it wasn't very fulfilling. And I was like, you know what? This isn't fun. You know, I'm like sharing a vacuum or a onesie or all these things that are important. Everybody needs a vacuum, but it didn't fulfill me. It kind of felt like, hey, purchase this, purchase that, and then you'll be happier as a mom, as a wife, as a homeowner, all of these things. And I kind of just started thinking like, if I don't speak out, who will? And I know that there are people who are, but if that's my frame of mind all the time, you know, somebody else will do it. Abby Johnson does it, or Lila Rose does it, or Kristen Hawkins does it. You know, if that's my train of thought, then I'm not really backing up my beliefs. I'm not bold enough in my beliefs. So I kind of just jumped off the deep end and just went into it and started sharing pro-life things. And the rest is history.
I think that's what is so, great is like that, even though there are others out there speaking, you have a special story that maybe others can be like, oh, I can like see me in her. And so that's what's so crucial. And we do live in this culture where I do feel like we are even more scared to be bold about what we say versus years back. And that's probably because obviously we can post something and it is shared compared to us just talking to a, I don't know, having a personal conversation is very different than just typing something and it goes out there. So So kind of leading into from your personal story into your organization, could you explain how your personal life led to that?
Yeah. So doing all the social media things and sharing about being pro-life, I had a woman message me. I think she lived in, I want to say it was Maine, but she messaged me and she said, hey, I don't know if you're going to see this, but I just want to let you know I've been following you for a long time. I'm Christian and I'm pro-life, but I had an abortion scheduled and I've been praying to God for help. Her husband lost his job at the very beginning of COVID, and they were living with her parents at the time and already had a son. They weren't married yet. They were just dating. And she was just scared. I think that's the situation with a lot of women. So she said that she'd been praying. She didn't want to have the abortion, but she didn't see any other option. And she opened up Instagram. And it seems so silly. It's just Instagram. It's just social media, but it really can have such a big impact. She opened up Instagram and said that she canceled her abortion appointment when she saw one of my pro-life posts. And I thought that was so beautiful. And I felt like it was God saying, you're doing great. Keep going. This is what you're supposed to be doing. Because you don't know if you're making a difference unless, especially when it comes to social media, unless somebody tells you, if you get feedback from people and they're like, hey, I learned something, or hey, you changed my mind, or hey, I canceled my abortion, or, you don't necessarily know unless somebody tells you. And so for a while I was thinking, I don't know if I'm even making a difference. Like, are people really, am I in an echo chamber? Am I changing anybody's mind? Am I helping anyone? And she messaged me and said that she canceled her appointment, which I thought was so awesome. And I was so grateful to her for sharing, but I didn't feel like me doing or just sharing an Instagram post was enough. So I went out on a limb. The majority of the people who followed me at that point in time were pro-life. All of the people who disagreed pretty much fell off the deep end and unfollowed me. So I put on my stories, it was like, hey, would you guys consider blessing this woman with me and kind of filling a baby shower? I'll put everything on Amazon. I'll share it. We can all go in. Amazon has a great feature where you can do like a contribution. So if you can't, afford $100 for an item or $50 for an item, you can donate $5 or $10. So it was a really cool way to do that. And the women, and I guess there are probably some men too, they purchased everything within 24 hours and they wanted to do more. They were like, can we do another one? Can you find more women for us to help? And it's so funny because people say the pro-life movement doesn't care about women. And I'm like, you don't know the pro-life movement. We literally will jump out of our seats, give the shirt off of our back, give our hard-earned money, go into debt in some cases in order to help somebody else, especially a mother who's in need. So I kind of just ran with that. I started talking to some local pregnancy resource centers and saying, hey, if you guys have a woman who is abortion minded and ends up rejecting abortion and chooses life, we would love to help her, especially if she's financially unstable. And so when one of the pregnancy centers comes across a woman like that, they reach out to me and we do a baby registry and we fill up for them.
Awesome. And are you guys in mainly Colorado area? Is that where?
Yeah, I have occasionally heard from people from out of state. So I'm willing to work with pretty much anybody. It's kind of I have to have a way of vetting the women. That sounds kind of bad, but there have been people who try to take advantage of it, or they'll say, hey, here's my baby shower, or here's my baby registry. Will you share it? So in working with pregnancy resource centers, and when I come across women who are from out of state, that's usually what I do. I say, hey, let me connect you with this pregnancy resource center. If they don't go, then I know typically they either don't care enough about receiving my help, or maybe they were just trying to take advantage. So when I do come across somebody in a different state, I just partner with a pregnancy resource center in that state and communicate with them. And then I'll go from there and help that mom out.
That is just crucial, because I'm sure now that your following has really grown, I'm sure that you have women that are from all states now.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah. We've had women in Florida. We've had women in Maine. We've had them in Colorado, California. We just did, and then not just baby registries, but we just did like a Christmas for one mom who has 5 children and was struggling to purchase gifts. We did all of her gifts under the tree for her children, just to take a little bit of financial pressure off of the holidays for her. So it is kind of all over. And it's awesome because the baby registries have gone from filling in 24 hours to filling in like 45 minutes. And then I have people like down my DMs, like, I want to help. Can you add something else to it? I want to do it more. Do I want to do more? Can you add more diapers? Can you add more wipes? Like, they literally are like chasing me down, trying to give to these women. It's so amazing. It's really cool to see.
And that is literally kind of like to what you were saying, that is women supporting women. So yeah, for like people who like say that we do not support women, we support life and we support women and we support every single person. Yeah. So that's just great. So besides what your organization provides through that, what are some big needs or like concerns that I'm sure that like women have shared other things, but besides you guys providing that, I guess like what I'm like trying to say are what are like other things that you have learned by helping these women besides just which is like obviously a big deal, but I'm sure you've come through some hard, or you've like seen some hard stories about, oh wow, there's more than just this, but it's also other things too.
Yeah, everybody's situation isn't that simple. Some people have easier situations and circumstances than others to overcome. I've learned so much, and there's so many ways to help these women. We had a woman whose husband lost his job due to COVID, another one. And she actually was in Texas, and he ended up basically prostituting her out for money. Mm-hmm. They already had kids, and he had a vasectomy, so they knew when she got pregnant, it wasn't his. So everybody's situation is different. Kind of what I've had to learn and what I've needed to know, because I can't fulfill every single need of every single woman, even my followers. With the help of them, I can't fulfill everything. So what I've really tried to do is like dive into what resources are available. That way, you know, like, hey, I can do the baby shower for you, but like maybe safe housing is something that you need, that I need to know where and how to find that. Maybe it's a car. Maybe you don't have a car to get to and from work, or schooling. So really like diving into what resources are out there. I have like a little booklet in Colorado, so I know what to recommend here in our state, but occasionally I come across women in other states too. And I just kind of like dive and scour the internet for resources in that area, because I'd rather know them beforehand. That way I have them to give to a woman right away. Because if she says, hey, I need this, and I'm like, oh, I don't know, let me find out, then I think that can sometimes leave them uneasy. I like to have the information before, if I can. So if it's a state, like I've already talked to someone in Florida, I kind of see what their state resources are. And obviously I don't know what county or city somebody's going to be in, but I try to know as much as I can beforehand as far as helping them out. But really what I see with a lot of these women is they just need love and support. They need to be told, you can do this. You're going to be okay. That's what I needed. It was something that I felt alone and scared. And just by hearing my mom say, you can do this, we'll get through this together, you'll be fine, it made all the difference in the world. So whether that's a friend or a sister or a parent or a grandparent, or a stranger like me, a lot of these women, that's what I'm learning, is a lot of them just need to hear, you can do this, because they're told that they can't. They're told that they cannot accomplish their dreams or reach their goals and have a baby at the same time. They're told by celebrities and musicians and even politicians on the left, and they're constantly told that they can't be a mother, have a family, and do all of these things. And it's just a lie. So hearing that they can do it and they have the support of those around them or even a stranger, I think that's truly, truly beneficial to them and their well-being, mental health, all of that moving forward.
Yeah. Yeah. So kind of shifting from your personal story and then through all of the services that your group does, can you kind of explain how this has like leveraged you as a speaker? And now you travel to various places, rallies. Can you kind of share how, I don't know if like that kind of happened after all of like that, but could you kind of share how now you've like branched into a public speaker basically now?
It's kind of funny. When I had to do like public speeches in school, I would literally shake. Like
Me too.
I get so nervous public speaking, but I'm like, if I don't just do it, I'm never going to get over that fear. It kind of happened just organically by me being more vocal on social media. I had some organizations that I had partnered with or were ambassadors for, and were like, hey, we love what you're doing. Would you come talk about it? And from there, I've had like pregnancy resource centers ask me to speak at their fundraisers, or I actually am speaking next month at the National Pro-Life Summit. Actually, that's this month. Sorry, time's getting away from me. This month at the National Pro-Life Summit in DC. So it kind of just, it's not even anything that I went fishing for. It just kind of came to me and people started asking me to speak. And it's because I'm so passionate about it, I decided to like kind of put my fears aside. And I have kind of something unique in that I do have a story, and my son is also pro-life and he fights for life with me. And I think people love to see that. They love to see the picture of something somebody went through that was really hard and they came out on the other side, and it shows women that you can do it and you can be successful. So yeah, I guess it just kind of happened from there. And the fact that I do something, with my social media platform too, I think helps, and people want to hear about that in ways that they can help.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think that because there are so many different accounts and stories and people that say all sorts of things, but when you have personally lived it, I feel like that they can't really say too many things back when it's like, okay, you are going to try to pick a fight with someone who has lived it and has breathed it. So especially just with so much being said. So I mean, so kind of going off of that, do you want to talk a little bit about the Dobbs Supreme Court case? I was reading on that, and you were sharing more about it when like we were talking previously. And so I just wanted to give you a chance to kind of share about that, because that's a really crucial case as far as the timing. I believe it's 15 weeks.
Yeah. So basically what the case is doing, Mississippi is looking to protect babies at 15 weeks and ban abortions after 15 weeks. Actually, they have, and they're being challenged, but 15 weeks is prior to viability. Viability is a moving target, which is a lot of people will ban abortion after viability, which the bad thing about that is that viability is moving. Viability used to be like 28 weeks and now it's down to even 21 weeks. And as medicine and science progresses, it's going to go lower and lower, which is absolutely amazing. And also why you don't want to do, I guess, write any laws based on viability, since it is a moving target. So what this is doing, they're challenging, it essentially is challenging Roe and could overturn Roe, which is amazing. But what I want to share with everybody about that is, you know, people hear about like overturning Roe and, you know, the pro-abortion side gets scared and the pro-life side gets excited. But I don't want to get too excited, because that's not the end of the pro-life movement. It's just a new beginning. What it does, it will send the abortion debate and legislation back to the states instead of being at a federal level. So there are a lot of states who will put pro-life legislation in place. And there are a lot of states like Colorado, our state, that will be very pro-abortion. And there's actually something coming down in Colorado right now that is going to be extremely pro-abortion and try to kind of codify abortion through all 9 months for any reason at any time. So the biggest thing with that, I think everybody is thinking, you know, Roe's going to get overturned, Roe's going to get overturned, and it may, and I hope that it does. However, we just have a new battle and it's a local battle. So I don't want people to give up. I want them to just figure out new ways to fight in their community, maybe do what I do, volunteer at your pro-life or pregnancy resource center that's local to you, get your church involved, get your school involved, maybe start a Students for Life group. All of those things are still on the horizon for us to continue fighting.
I think too, it just seems crazy that a topic as crucial as life, because if you don't have life, nothing else matters, but then yet it is a state level decision. I think that that's crazy. And it definitely could be a like good thing to take it back down. But then yes, at the same time, it's like, okay, now states individually can decide on such a crucial topic. So it'll be really fascinating to see how that happens. And, you know, but yes. And so that is why it is so crucial for people to get out there. So because I have seen some of what you have posted about, I believe, I don't know if you were at the Colorado State Capitol a month or so back, or if you were at the national Capitol, but do you have any thoughts about those? I'm trying to think which like Capitol you were at.
So I was at the Supreme Court for the Dobbs case.
Okay. That
was also at the Colorado State Capitol for the Women's March, which
well, then it was both. Yeah. So how were, for like people who cannot go to those things or just haven't like experienced it, because I personally am in a conservative state, so I have never experienced something like that. Could you kind of share about people's passion on both sides?
Right. So I think going to like pro-life rallies and pro-life marches are absolutely wonderful things to do. It helps you realize that you're not alone. I mean, when you go in DC, there's 100,000 to 200,000 people. I mean, it's like people for as far as you can possibly see, and you realize I'm not alone. All of these people stand for life. They've got my back. Even if I don't know them, like I just want to give them a hug because we believe the same things. We're fighting for the same things. And it's so beautiful to see all of these people and their differences. I'm sure they live all sorts of walks of life come together for one issue that is so incredibly important. I also think it's important to witness the other side, which is why I went to the Women's March. You think like a pro-life conservative woman, what is she doing at the Women's March? This is crazy. And it was very crazy. I went and there were about 5 of us, and we just held some signs, Students for Life signs. And what we thought was a women's march was actually just a rally. For whatever reason, it was the only one in the country that didn't have a march. So when the speaker stopped speaking, then everybody, and I'm talking like hundreds, maybe even over 1,000 people came and swarmed 5 of us. Were screaming in our ears, stealing our things, spitting at us, all of these things. And I don't want people to experience that aspect of it, but I want them to go see what these people are fighting for. It's not necessarily a women's march. It's a pro-abortion march. That's all it is. They're fighting for abortion rights. They say that it's feminism, but it's not. They're just fighting for abortion. And if you're a woman who thinks otherwise or is pro-life, you're not welcome there. And that's kind of what we saw and what we wanted to, we just want to see how we were received, and we were not received very well. But one of the most important takeaways for me from that was all of the emotion and in the eyes of the women and the voices of the women. You could see that they were hurting, and that kind of made it more tolerable. None of it was okay, the way that they treated us, but it made it more tolerable because I knew the reason they were acting out was out of anger and hurt that maybe they had an abortion in their past and they haven't healed from it or dealt with it, or I think a lot of them lash out because they're trying to bury something a little bit deeper. So that kind of helps and reminds me, this is why I'm doing it, because abortion does hurt women. It obviously takes the life of a baby. It does hurt women, and women do not deserve this pain and regret afterward.
So kind of to finish our discussion, can you share and give some tips or thoughts about how people who are definitely, on the same page, but don't really know how to share or to start a, conversation with a friend, a family, about why they believe this, because I'm trying to think how to say it. But even though me, I'm yes, sometimes it can be really hard to just figure out how to start explaining why, because it seems like it's such a big topic and there's so many different parts about, okay, at this stage and at this, all of these various, because it is so science heavy. What are some general tips? And I know that I'm being broad, but what are some tips from when you've talked to various people that could help, whether it's younger people, older, however, to just start the conversation when it feels really, really hard?
Yeah, it is. It's a hard topic. Like I said before, it is one of the most controversial things to talk about. And the reason being is that it's such an emotional one. I think the best thing that anyone can do that's going to have this conversation is to know the facts behind it. And I've been doing it. I really only have I've always been pro-life, but I dived in and started getting deeper maybe 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago. So it hasn't really been that long. But before that, I just kind of really started studying, looking at Live Action's page, looking at Students for Life's page, other pro-life resources, Life News, all of that, kind of reading and knowing what all the arguments the pro-choicers throw at you. And at this point, they throw the same ones every single time. They throw, my body, my choice. We know that it's not the woman's body. A woman does not have 2 hearts and 20 fingers and 20 toes. They say that they talk about bodily autonomy, but then they don't address the bodily autonomy of the baby. They really throw the same arguments at you over and over. So kind of knowing what those arguments are before they're going to get to them and being ahead of them and knowing how to respond to it. Actually, even Life News and some other Live Action probably has it too, have ways to respond to pro-choice arguments. And that's just a basic beginning of, this is usually what they say, here's how you can respond. And I think that's so helpful. I think also just talking to people and realizing the arguments that they use are very emotional and coming at it from a logical perspective of I understand, and trying to really relate to them, because they'll bring up the instance of maybe a young girl who's been raped or whatnot, which is absolutely horrendous and horrific, and nobody condones that. And the man should get the fullest, or be punished to the fullest extent of the law. But that doesn't take away the fact that is still a life, and conception does not determine whether or not the baby is valuable. So it's the same arguments you'll hear over and over, and they're very emotional ones. And you have to reason with their emotion first, and then kind of come at it from a logical perspective and say, well, if a baby is wanted, maybe a baby that was planned, and is valuable, how is that baby more valuable than a baby maybe that was unplanned? So there's so many ways to talk to somebody. I really do think that because their arguments are so emotional, it's important to kind of show them some emotion back first, so they think that you're human. You know, if we're just like, no, here's the statistics and logic and facts, which I love, you still have to like show them some emotion and kind of really talk to them, get on their level, and then come at it from a different angle.
Well, thank you so much for sharing about your personal story, your nonprofit. So for those who are in Colorado, check out Be Their Village, especially because we have talked to people who have done a lot of different things, but yours is such a personal story. So thank you for sharing with us
absolutely
today.
Thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you. So to our listeners, if you have enjoyed today's episode, share and leave us a review. You can find it on iTunes, Spotify, or on our website. See you all next time. Okay, and I'm going to stop the recording.
I'm so hot.